Justin here for another Wicked World Wrestling. This is our big reactions to the Raw after SummerSlam and also the review of SummerSlam itself, which my first general thought was watching it. It was probably the best pay-per-view I think they've done since WrestleMania 30.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying.
I think overall, I would say the booking came out pretty solid. At least from my perspective, watching it, I'm like, I think everybody that they paired up, they worked pretty well together doing the matches. That was my first thought. Although it also it really felt like a lot of the matches were kind of short.
Well, yeah, that was one of the biggest problems. I mean, like I was saying to you, it was like we went through 4 or 5 matches in the first hour.
Yeah, it felt like really after all the intros and the entrances and all of the in-between stuff in between the matches, it really felt like they only were given like they only had 10 minutes apiece.
Yeah.
To do the match. And so overall, I think for our predictions from the prediction video, for those of you who watched it and were playing along, Cesaro versus RVD, we were both wrong.
Yeah, RVD won that one.
Ziggler versus The Miz, we were both wrong.
Yeah.
The Swagger versus Rusev one was an impossible one to predict because the rules were not made 100% clear until the pay-per-view.
Well, yeah, and that was why I gave two different predictions and said, well, if it's like a flag on the pole style match, then I give it to Swagger. But if it's more of a pinfall submission, then it's Rusev. So I was right on that one. You were wrong.
I will say, though, about the Rusev vs. Swagger match, good match. Absolutely.
It was a great match, and I thought it was a great way to end it by doing the pass-out finish.
Yeah, and also having him super kick or punt Coulter in the head. That match was, I think it was a great match for other reasons, not just the wrestling. It was also the way Rusev went over in the match, and also they did a phenomenal job making him really come off like a scumbag by the end of that match.
Yeah. And
I have a feeling that the whole flag hitting the ground was not intentional because Coulter was still in the ring. I have a feeling that it looked like he was back a couple of steps and was probably meant to catch the flagpole as Swagger was getting knocked over.
Yeah.
It looks like JBL mentions it on the commentary a couple times, but I don't believe, from what I can't recall from Raw, if they really mentioned it anymore. I think by the end of the match they were trying to forget the fact that the flag hit the ring.
Yeah.
So overall, I think that's something they could have made a big deal out of.
Oh yeah, easily.
But yeah, Paige versus AJ. I was wrong on that one.
Yeah, you were. And it was just like I said, Paige was going to win because they're setting up for the match again at Night of Champions, which they followed up with Raw by having AJ come around and dance around the ring and make Paige lose to Natalia. Which, again, it was kind of a weak point to do it that way, in my opinion, because Natalya is basically number 3.
You see, the thing is
in the Divas division, so having her just win because of AJ's distraction is a letdown because you haven't really used her on the main roster in a while.
And what's grinding my gears a lot about the whole Paige versus AJ situation is, number one, if you've watched wrestling in the past 15 years, you've seen it before because it's Trish versus Mickey. It's the Trish-Mickey James feud, but the big difference is it doesn't feel like AJ and Paige are getting as much promo time it's all of these like interference spots and not really so much mic time. So I just don't think they're telling the story as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's a lot of the problem that they have nowadays is certain promos in that they'll do really small for certain ones when they should go bigger, and then other ones they'll go really big and overall with it when it should be smaller because you're over saturating with that one.
It's also something where I don't think it helps that Paige already has more than a passing resemblance to AJ looks wise, and when they did the Trish versus Mickey feud way back when, that was something they could actually build up to, was how Mickey James was changing her appearance.
Well, yeah, like when they did the Halloween costumes thing, and Mickey comes out imitating Trish, dressed up like her. It was a funny moment to build on. Yeah, and all that.
And over time, she started changing her tights. She started straightening her hair.
Yeah,
she started going a lot different, and that was something they were able to build up. I mean, here it's like, well, how do you make one of them look more like the other than they already kind of do?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Paige, you have like a kind of like industrial punk kind of look going on.
To counteract that, this is what they're doing. They're having, because everybody goes, oh, AJ's crazy, so we have Paige act crazy. Oh, it's smart and genius. It's not really.
No, they're just taking a straight line with this thing.
You could do a lot of different things to build on it, and it'd be a lot better. But it's like they're taking the safe route.
Well, yeah, I keep looking at this for like the past few months now. Like, where's the sharp left turn? Yeah. And I don't think there's ever going to be one.
No, not really.
Stephanie versus Brie,
which technically ended how we both said in a way.
Yeah.
With Nikki turning, which was the weakest fucking turn I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it amounted to her just punching Brie, and apparently that was as good as a knockout shot, even though it was just a regular punch like she throws in any other match.
Well, it's pretty much like they're setting up. It's gonna end up being Brie versus Nikki for a while.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly what it is, and they're doing a shitty rehash of Owen versus Brett with this.
Pretty much.
Because
we're still sisters.
And because starting
they're
opening Raw, they did the stupid boring promo for it with Brie coming out and going, Nikki, you ruined our family for what? Nothing. But I forgive you. And Nikki, you forgive me? Oh,
it's okay. They're still sisters.
That's the big. Oh, what this is all leading to? Wow, boring. You're not even trying with it. Is the thing.
No, they're not. And it's like I would have been more interested if you had Goldust and Stardust doing that.
Which was the original idea, but then they tossed it out the window, and apparently are setting them up to be facing the Usos at Night of Champions for the title by having Stardust get the win last night.
Wouldn't surprise me, but again, my big thought from Raw is I really feel like what I thought they would have done by SummerSlam, they didn't even have a tag team title match on the card, and I really thought that by SummerSlam, the way things were going, I thought Harper and Rowan would have won the tag belts by now.
Well, and they should have, but I do like how they used Harper and Rowan on Raw last night by having them face Big Show and Mark Henry and having Rowan body slam Big Show, which was one of the best points of the night in my opinion.
Well, they do a lot to show off Harper, and I think Rowan seems to be the more underutilized, where they're not
Well,
they're not making. They haven't really sold him as like the bruiser of the Wyatt family.
Well, yeah, and that was one of the points of doing that last night, to show that he is the muscle of the Wyatt family.
Yeah, it's like, okay, now, here's the enforce. Here's Bray Wyatt's actual enforcer.
They basically aren't
the crazy man. Yeah. And Jericho versus Wyatt from SummerSlam
was probably the best match of the night, because it literally was just as great as the show-stealing match that Wyatt had with Bryan at Royal Rumble, which everybody agreed on. It was just as good as that, if not better, and it farther proved, at least in my opinion, Wyatt's the real future of the company. Yeah, Roman's all great and shit, but they're ultimately always gonna keep him most of the time as a good guy. So he's the good guy future. Wyatt's the bad guy future. He's picking up from where Undertaker was always the bad guy.
Yeah.
Where Foley was the bad guy facing Undertaker, and that's the position Wyatt's in. And as long as they go full bore with him, sky's the limits.
Well, yeah, I know a lot of people were kind of irate. I know I was when Wyatt went under to Cena at WrestleMania. You know, we were both going, "What the hell was that?" But it's but at the same time, I sort of just pulled it back, and I thought to myself, with the whole situation of where they're going,
he'll win out the feud.
I'm like, in like a year and a half from now, when they're having Wyatt versus Roman as a headlining feud, I don't think anybody is going to look back on WrestleMania 30 and care whether or not ultimately Wyatt went over at WrestleMania.
Well, yeah, because he had a great showing on there to begin with.
And really, I think the better thing of WrestleMania for Wyatt was everything that they did between him and Cena leading up to Extreme Rules. Now, granted, the Last Man Standing was kind of bogus the way they did it, but
yes, and I was more pissed off because they didn't play up the fact that it took Cena burying him in order to keep him down for a 10 count. They didn't play that up, and they should have, because that could have been a great launching pad moment.
I still said, I think maybe I said this to you after the Last Man Standing match when they had that at Battleground, or was it Money in Battleground, I think, wasn't it? Or
the Last Man Standing was
it was Extreme Rules, then Battleground, I think.
No, Battleground was the last one.
Oh. Payback?
Yeah, Payback.
Payback. Okay. Sorry. Brain fart for a second.
Yeah.
But I think I remember saying, like, if they really wanted to shock people and really wanted to give something that was they could use to really sell the network, and really after the WrestleMania match, after the steel cage match, if you really wanted to piss off fans, here's how I think I told you this before, here's how I thought the Bray Wyatt versus Cena Last Man Standing match should have gone. Cena comes down to the ring, ready to fight. Wyatt graphic, lights go out, lights come back, Cena's laid out, match is over in 5 seconds.
Well, yeah, that was what I said.
10-second count, and you don't even give the fans a wrestling match. Wyatt would just go over in the cheapest, most inexplicable and incomprehensible way possible. You would have had Cena fans all over the country throwing their remotes at their televisions.
Well, yeah, no, that's exactly what I said, because of the fact that lights are out, nobody sees anything that happens, and then the lights come back, 1, 2, 3.
That would have been the greatest way to do it, and I think if they had a match on the Payback card that was built to go longer than like a 15-20 minute match, that would have been perfect, because you could if you had main evented Payback with, let's say, a Hell in a Cell match or an Iron Man match, let's say, right in between like the third highest match on the card, you put Cena versus Wyatt with the Last Man Standing match in the middle. 10 seconds, it's over. How are we going to do this before an Iron Man match or a Hell in a Cell match? What we're about to show you.
Yeah.
It will be the fastest Last Man Standing match of all time.
Oh yeah, and that's why that would have been the perfect way to do it, and then just have it end there, and then bring it back in like 3 months.
Yeah,
would have been the perfect way.
Oh yeah, and I think the Jericho versus Wyatt match proves from the other night the same point. I think just going back to the Rumble, I think people just love to see Bray, Sister Abigail people into the guardrail.
Yeah.
I think people just love to see him like knock someone's face into the barrier, because I don't think people have ever gotten tired of when he did that to Bryan as a part of the match. But even at the Royal Rumble, I will say I thought it was a more impressive spot because he actually caught Bryan out of the air to do it to him and hit him into the guardrail at the Rumble. That, I think, was probably the more spectacular of the 2 times. It's really been a big deal that he's done the move outside of the ring. Well, but still, people seem to really like that spot with the move.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's like... Well, it's like when they were doing that match months and months back. I forget when exactly, but they were doing the 6-man tag, and it was Wise versus Mysterio and 2 other people. I think it was Goldust and Cody.
Possibly, it could have been.
I don't remember the other 2, but I just remember Ray goes and bounces off the ropes. Wyatt grabs him, Sister Abigail's him in a straight line. There's not even a split-second stop in the middle of the movement, which was perfect. And that was really when I pointed at the screen and went, that just proves to any naysayers why it is definitely the future.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you can pull off something like that and do it so smoothly.
And I thought the finish to the Jericho match was very effective, because really you watch the match and it was, they had really good back and forth the whole time. Yeah. And then, first of all, Jericho did a really good job, I think, selling the fact that he was just getting creeped the hell out by the spider walk.
Well, yeah, where they just kind of had him stop and sit there and go, what, and then start slowly backing away. Yeah. It was perfect.
And then the finish I thought was really effective, because it made Wyatt came really strong off the match, because for like that last 2 minutes or so, he was just crushing it.
Yeah.
And that made him come out of the match really strong. And I thought they did a really good job with that. Ambrose versus Rollins, the other probable match of the night contender besides Jericho versus Wyatt. And again, I told you it was going to be some lumberjack interference. Although going ahead to Raw, I called it wrong where I thought they were going to go with it.
Yeah.
I was almost anticipating between Sunday night and Monday night, Ambrose is going to come out and attack Wyatt. They're not going to do Jericho versus Wyatt again at Night of Champions. Ambrose is going to come out and attack the Wyatt family. Yeah,
but no. And again, I thought it was a great way to extend it after SummerSlam by doing the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge with Ambrose just dumping the bucket on Rollins and then standing there with a confused face when Rollins turns around and goes, "What? It's for charity." It was just perfect.
I don't know. They seem to have a good thing, and I also have to say the way they're changing it, I like the whole D Anarchy logo.
I do.
That's something really good. It's like, okay, you just really cracked a big part of how to present him, and with that with having the right logo to go with him.
Well, yeah, exactly. The biggest stupidity of the night to me was the way that they ended the follow-up match with them by doing the curb stomp through the cinder blocks, because it was just a overly storyline way to write Ambrose off to go film some stupid crappy movie.
Yeah, some movie called Lockdown, which there's been 10 of those. There's been 10 of those, and I think a Batman villain called Lockdown.
Well, that and the plot is every single movie you ever heard about in the last 50 years.
It's called Lockdown, but the plot is really a rip-off of Assault on Precinct 13.
And like 12 other ones that are very similar to that.
Yeah. But if you want to go back to like the originator of that kind of plot line, you go back to the original John Carpenter Precinct 13. And I think it was just I knew they were going to write him out.
Well, I knew they were going to do something, but it would have been nice to do something less in your face where just storyline doing this.
I think overall...
Because, again, it's the whole cinder block thing. You know that's not real.
Yeah.
That you know, they're not really going to show that in a way that is going to legitimately hurt the guy, because that is just...
This is another thing, though, that it's very funny, because... And we can probably... I'm going to hold on to this thought, and I'm going to come back to it in a minute, because it ties into the other big moment of SummerSlam, and with Raw. And I will say, though my overall reaction to Raw was... I was really thinking after how solid SummerSlam was that they were going to come out and this was going to be like a Raw after WrestleMania. Like something...
No.
I was sitting there for like 3 hours hoping and waiting that something like big is going to happen, like something really unexpected that's going to push things on for a few months was going to happen. And we got Bo Dallas taunting Jack Swagger.
and hinting at doing a match between Mark Henry and Rusev.
Yeah.
Which you should be happy about. You called that 4 months ago.
Well, because of the pattern, I really thought they were going in a direction where Rusev was going to, before Rusev moved forward doing anything else, it really looked like they were purposely having him bury every single black wrestler on the roster. Okay, Darren Young, Kofi, Xavier Woods, Big E. I'm not even trying to make some kind of bad joke here. The booking was a bad joke.
Yeah.
I don't even think they realized what this looked like. Where he debuts squashing Darren Young. I believe Darren Young was his debut match on Raw. Or it was like...
I don't remember.
It was someone. It was either Darren Young or it was... It could have been anybody that around WrestleMania time they were just using as a jobber.
Yeah.
Anyway. Because I remember the dark match when I took my son to the SmackDown taping before WrestleMania. The dark match at the Garden was Darren Young versus Rusev before they did the main event stream.
Yeah.
So, and then I think they ultimately they were doing that on television a couple weeks later, and ironically, I think Zack Ryder was like the second person that Rusev squashed on television, which was actually the second person Bray Wyatt squashed on television when they were having him like just tear through jobbers for 2 months.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Roman versus Orton. Considering I've never been overall very impressed with a lot of Orton's ring work over the years, again, much like the Miz versus Ziggler match, which we just touched that very briefly at the beginning. Those were
there wasn't much to say.
There really wasn't, because I was going to say the exact same thing, and this pretty much applies, where I didn't have a lot of big expectations for the Reigns-Orton match. I knew Roman was going to go over. I didn't know Ziggler was going to go over and win the title, but at the same point, both matches I could say the exact same thing about, because watching them, like both of these matches ended up getting pulled off a lot better than they had any right to be. Because I thought really Roman versus Orton alone and by itself, I thought was going to be a pretty boring thing to watch for the most part.
See, I thought it was going to be pretty decent, but then again, I do like Orton, whereas you don't.
I don't hate him. I just don't. A lot of his ring work is.
you just don't really care.
He's good. I don't think he's awful in the ring, but it's, he's had a lot of good matches with people, but a lot of his like general, except for like the big spots in his matches, most of the other wrestling ends up being boring during the match. So it's like, again, who cares?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, the thing with Orton is he does a lot more of the more old school moves in the ring, in between all the high spots like that. The stomps and that, where he goes around and stomps the body, and that's a lot more of an old school type of thing. And that's really, it's one of the reasons why a lot of people view him as not as entertaining.
I will say the Ziggler versus Miz match was a lot better than I thought it had any right to be.
See, I disagree with that. It was another one where I can say the same thing about Orton versus Reigns. It was exactly what I thought it was. I thought
for the surprise of actually putting Ziggler over and having him win the Intercontinental title.
That's the only thing that made it slightly better, in my opinion. Because I mean, everything else in the match, it was pretty much exactly what you would expect if you really look at it, and that's what I mean. I thought the Orton versus Reigns was much better than the Ziggler Miz thing, but then again, half that is I honestly don't like Miz.
Yeah. I
don't enjoy seeing him in a match or doing a promo or nothing. It's not like I hate him. I just don't enjoy any time that he's on TV.
But again, he's somebody that it's like, you had this guy main event WrestleMania, 3 years ago, something like that, 4 years ago, at this point against Cena. He main events WrestleMania, you make him WWE champion, and then he was a jobber for like 2 years. And it's like, how do you screw up something that you put that much time into and then knock him down to being nobody status?
Well, again, it's like I was saying on the prediction video, my opinion of The Miz. He's somebody that never should have had the title because of the fact that he's much better off being one of the guys you wish had the title, that you wish to see with the title, but never actually gets it, and that's because he got the title, nobody gave a shit.
Oh yeah, and I would say he is somebody that, yes, I wouldn't have probably, if I was booking at that time years ago, I would have probably never put the title on him. But also in the fallout from that, after putting that much, if you ended up putting that much time into him, I never would have buried somebody you put that much time into the way they did.
Well, Look at how they buried Sandow. It was the reaction they got.
Yeah.
Got to Miz having the title, which is why he's been sitting exactly where the hell he's been sitting ever since.
But look at how they buried Sandow. I've said this time and time again since last year, I've never seen them bury a Money in the Bank winner to the extent that they buried Sandow. So it's like, now at the time, I thought it would have made more sense because, at the time on SmackDown, for like a mid-carder breaking out to a possible main event role, Cody was getting pretty hot.
Yeah. And
he really got hot off of that whole Money in the Bank match and getting screwed by Sandow.
Yeah.
And again, we've said this before, my personal opinion is I think this is all they've gone the complete wrong direction with Cody Rhodes ever since. But like I said, I wouldn't.
Well, hey, this slapping in the black and gold, and look, it's been the greatest boost of his career.
At the time, I would have personally I wouldn't have had Sandow, probably, or Rhodes have won the Money in the Bank, but they were able to do something good off of that a year ago. But I also never would have buried Sandow if you were going to have him win it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, but again, the only reason they ultimately buried Sandow was because John Cena can't be the only one to cash in and fail. Yes, he can.
But again, like I said, with the Roman versus Orton match, it was going to serve its purpose, and it did. It wasn't going to be a 5-star match. It wasn't going to be anything particularly outstanding. But like I said, it was going to serve its purpose. Yeah. It was going to get where they want. It was going to, continue to push Roman where they want to push him, and continue to get everything going where they want to go with it, and it was going to be that. So before we move on, I think we need to slow things down a little bit, and we need to have a solemn, dignified, and very, respectful. Oh fuck yeah!
Lesnar won. And again, I don't care how many Cena fans want to sit there and complain that it was a boring match. It was a great match featuring 16 German suplexes and 2 F5s.
This is the money shot from like 2 years of Super Cena since he beat The Rock at WrestleMania 29.
Oh yeah.
This is the money shot for over almost 2 years of Super Cena.
Though I do have to say I do have to give it to Cena on one point and one point only. He did finally do a good STF, though it was kind of an STF rear naked choke, but we'll let that go because it's much better than how he usually does it.
Anything's better than how he usually does it.
Well, as Austin even told him, tighten them sons of bitch up.
Well, he's gonna have, I really just wish they had a long hold of Brock repeatedly punching him in the face till he was more purple than his clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, after all I'm gonna somehow squash Mark Henry. I'm gonna somehow beat Ryback 3 pay-per-views in a row. I'm gonna attitude adjust Ryback through an ambulance roof.
You're right. It was much better when it was the FU.
Yeah. I'm gonna FU Ryback through an ambulance roof. I'm gonna, FU Mark Henry. I'm gonna tear through everybody. I'm gonna come back from an injury, and I'm gonna win the World Heavyweight title and bury Del Rio.
Wait, you forgot. And I'm gonna FU Big Show and look like I'm having a heart attack while I do it.
Yeah. First of all, he's done that before. He did it when he was the first time he was WWE champion.
Yeah.
Cena should not be looking like he's trying to take a dump while he does the attitude adjustment to the Big Show.
I know.
It's not that big of a strain. He did it back in 2012 when they were getting rid of Laurinaitis. It's not that big a deal. He's done it about 50 times.
Well, yeah.
And again, I will say, it was probably the most glorious and probably the only first time, I will say,
domination of
the main event
champion.
Probably the only time I can remember that the main event of a major pay-per-view was essentially a squash match that was stretched out for 20 minutes.
Well, yeah, and in all honesty, I think JR hit it on the nose. Finally, they showed the beast.
Yeah.
And it's true. That is exactly how Lesnar should be used. Oh, you come at me, I'm going to smack you back to the mat. You come at me, I'm going to smack you back to the mat.
Yeah, and it's like I was telling you the other night when we talked about it. I really think that this is how they should have been booking somebody back in the mid-2000s when UFC was hitting a really hot period. This is the kind of... They should have been putting this kind of build on someone. This is how you should have been pitching your World Heavyweight Champion to people back then when MMA was in a really big boom period and was really hot.
Well, yeah.
We could go on about this in a completely different video. My personal feeling is I really feel that ever since the whole Brock, and ironically this involves Brock Lesnar, because I really feel that UFC has not been as hot or as
Brock was there.
No, since the Brock Alistair Overeem debacle of early 2012.
Yeah.
I really think ever since the finish to that match where he was just kicking Brock in his stomach, I really think that whole pay-per-view for UFC was a negative turning point for them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Lesnar, he comes out on Raw, no big deal, whatever. Cena's not there to sell the fact that he got his ass beat. But he's going to be back next week.
Yes, but I gotta say, if you didn't realize how great the match was, just listen to Heyman on Raw. This is all Brock does. Eat, sleep, suplex, repeat. Suplex, repeat. Suplex, repeat. Suplex, repeat. Suplex, repeat. Eat, sleep, F5, repeat. Eat, sleep, victimize, repeat. Eat, sleep, beat, repeat. Eat, sleep, conquer John Cena, repeat.
Now here's the funny thing is, you know why this whole match is execution, and really it's funny because really this was almost like when Brock came back 2 years ago, the Extreme Rules match where Cena really, it's almost the same match.
Really got his ass beat.
Got his ass beat for 15 minutes.
And the only reason he winds up winning is because he uses the chain to knock Brock out and then F5s him on.
I will say in some ways, except for all the German suplexes, it really felt like it was the same match all over again in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
But again, this just makes it ironic that from back in, like, what was it? When Brock and Cena were both early into their debuts, and Cena was an early victim of Brock's and got injured and was actually put on the shelf for a little bit.
Yeah.
And he made a promo video saying that when he came back, he was going to beat Lesnar like they were in prison. And they never touched each other for 10 years.
Yeah.
So this is kind of ironic. I'm still waiting for Cena to give Brock Lesnar the prison beating he guaranteed him back in 2000.
Well, yeah, but he was a master of thugonomics back then. Now he's never give up.
Yeah.
Cena. So you know, he can't give him that prison beating anymore.
Yeah.
It's not a good guy. It's not good a guy enough.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is this is, again, of course, I have to say WWE, my overall reaction to SummerSlam, I would say probably, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Give it a solid B.
Yeah.
Solid B.
Which is an 80, which is an 8 out of 10. Same thing. And, I mean, I would say also, again, Raw was very safe. Really not that impressive overall.
Raw was exactly what you'd expect, and I'd say it was a solid C, just like most of the time it is.
Well, yeah, it's painfully average unless they hit on a really good idea, and you have you'll have maybe 1 or 2 big standout moments in a Monday Night Raw. Like, I mean, okay, like, you know, the Swagger face turn where Rusev's out doing a promo, and all of a sudden, here comes Swagger and Coulter last month. It's a standout moment, but it doesn't make most Monday Night Raws nowadays less painfully average than they are.
Oh yeah. Well, come on now. You can say one thing in the middle of them trying to extend the Reigns versus Orton feud.
Yeah.
They had a good spot for Ryback, because they finally found some place where people still give a fuck about him. Granted, that's only just because it's his hometown, but still, there's at least one place left on the planet that still gives a fuck about Ryback, like they did 2 years ago.
Poor Ryback. Poor Ryback. More so poor Curtis Axel, but poor Ryback.
Well, yeah, of course, poor Curtis Axel.
And again, only in PG.
They make him take all the damn bumps and stick him with Ryback to hold him back.
And to make that point that I was going to make earlier, only in PG era WWE can you end a show with curb stomping a man's head against a cinder block and still say the show's still say that the show is kid friendly.
Oh, it's completely kid friendly.
Yeah. So overall, SummerSlam was really good. Raw, we weren't impressed, and there's all of our ramblings and ravings about it.
Yeah, at least right now.
We will see you guys all next time. Take it easy. Have
Remember,
fun.
Bobby, be real.
What?